In this video I will show you some beginner art supplies you can get if you don't know where to start. I'm going to keep it very simple and basic, and I will show you that you don't need 1,000 different things to create something nice. First up, let's talk about the paper, and I'm using Canson XL watercolor paper right here. Now, is this the best paper there is? No, but it's really quite sturdy, it handles water pretty well. You can lift watercolor, you can erase it with a paper towel if you make a mistake. It's in this nice ring-bound pad, so it's not a fancy watercolor book. That would make you too scared to start. If you're anything like me, you don't want to use it because you don't want to ruin it. And also, if you don't want to use this paper for watercolor anymore because you find you don't like watercolors, you can use this one for a lot of different mediums. You can use it for acrylic gouache, for gouache, you can use it for colored inks, fine liners, colored pencils, graphite pencils, you name it, you can probably use it on this paper. You could even use it for crafting if you just need a thick cardboard paper. So this pencil part is going to be pretty short. I would recommend getting a 2H pencil, not an HB. It's a little harder, it's easy to erase, it doesn't smudge as much, and yeah, I would just go for this one. And you might be wondering, why are you recommending a fine liner? I've never seen you draw with a fine liner on this channel before, and I'm going to explain it to you. I started off with fine liners when I started doing watercolor. And I think that's actually a pretty nice way to start. Because if you create a fine liner illustration, you can just create a little coloring book image for yourself. So you don't have to think about separating different parts of your illustration with shadows. You can just use the lines. I don't know if I'm explaining this well, but I hope you understand what I'm saying. So here I'm just using a regular eraser, which is fine. If you want to erase dust-free, I would recommend you get something like this. For watercolor, I would recommend getting the Winsor & Newton Cotman box. It has just the right amount of colors. You don't need 30 or 36 colors, I promise you. I even think it's better to start off with a little less colors, so you start to learn mixing colors a little bit. I do think this is pretty popular, so I think you can get it almost anywhere, but of course I have no idea because I am from the Netherlands and I don't know where you're from, where you're watching. But I hope you can find it because I really think this is a good set to begin with. So for brushes, I would just recommend getting the cheap hobby brushes you'll see at any art store or maybe a dollar store even. These are fine to begin with, especially if you just want to see if you like watercolor at all. I would just recommend getting the cheap ones. But don't get the brushes that are especially made for acrylic or oil paint, because those are much rougher and much harder. So go for the cheap, soft synthetic brushes. And these are just two I found in my drawer that I haven't used in ages, but they work pretty fine actually. Normally I would recommend you buy a porcelain palette, but if you are just starting out, it's fine to just grab a plate or use the watercolor box itself. So here you can see I made a little mistake. You just get some paper towel and you dab it. That way the color gets picked up from the paper again and you can continue painting. So this next one is optional. If you want little dots and highlights on your illustration, you could use a jelly roll pen like I'm doing right here. You don't have to use it, of course, I just like the look of it. And there you have it, a nice little illustration using these art supplies. I hope you found it helpful. Thank you for watching and I see you on the next one.